like so many artists, musicians, writers, I can get really depressive and narcissistic and even suicidal because they're thinking I'm a genius, and no, it's a gift, and we have to use the gift for the giver. So I think that's really important. Yeah.
Just in terms of the times, because you asked that question about today. I mean, when Prabhupada was preaching and when things were going on here and the movement first starting up, I mean, the general instruction was you quit whatever you're doing. I mean, it was all about you leave. You know, you leave college, you leave your girlfriend, you leave your job, you leave everything, and you become a devotee. And whatever kind of talents you had weren't necessarily understood. I remember I was in the Denver temple, and there was one man that was very interested in Krishna consciousness. He was a concert pianist. And we weren't sure how to engage him. And I can remember he was told, well, everybody starts washing pots. He's a concert pianist, and you're asking to stick your hands in hot water. There might be knives down there, and you know, this is like his life. And we had no sense of how can you use that beautiful talent. So I think these days it's like the sky's the limit. You know, I know when I talk to young devotees, it's like, well, what can I do? Well, what do you want to do? Just add Krishna. It's just, you know, be a lawyer, great. Well, be a lawyer for Krishna. Talk about how to turn things upside down. You know, be a disruptive force for Krishna. If you want to, you know, have 10 kids, great. Have 10 kids for Krishna. Want to drive a taxi, great. Jayananda already did that. He taught us how to do that one. You don't want to be a businessman, great. Be a businessman. And run your company in a God-conscious way. And treat your employees understanding that they're devotees of God. And have ethical practices by which maybe you don't make as much money as the guy next door, but people like working for you, and your reputation goes, and you, before too long, you're beating the people that have lousy relationships with their customers and the government and everybody else because you've set a higher standard. And I personally think that's how Prabhupada talks about, you know, when 2% or 5%, whatever it is, of the population becomes Krishna conscious, he says the world will change. I think that doesn't mean that they're necessarily, you know, everybody's going to become a devotee of Krishna, but I think the world, the way of interaction between human beings is going to change, because there's going to be a percentage of lawyers that are Krishna conscious and percentage of judges and taxi drivers and plumbers. I mean, just imagine you go to a used car dealership and the guy's a devotee of Krishna and wants to sell you the best car that you really need at the best price because he worships you as a devotee of God. I mean, what a change in experience, right? You know? I mean, we're from Washington. I won't talk about politicians, but you know, just imagine how different things would be.
Yeah, and in terms of today, it's interesting because at that time, people were really dropping out. And now people want to know, how does your tradition, whatever religion you are, how is it relevant? And how is it working to change the world? So, you know, how is it authentic and how is it relevant? So I think, you know, this comes to, you know, the work that you're doing, the environmental work, and yeah, people want to know, you know, is this just a bunch of ivory tower talk, or is this something that can really change the world? And this philosophy can really change the world. You know, some of the greatest environmentalists, like I think of Vandana Shiva, she always quotes, you know the name Vandana Shiva? She's this amazing tiger woman physicist who has this institute up in the Himalayas. In India, she's like a seed protector. Anyway, she quotes Isha Upanishad, which says that everything in the universe is owned and controlled by the Supreme Lord. So therefore, we should not take more than our share, knowing well to whom all things belong. She quotes that when she's being interviewed by, you know, the New York Times or New Yorker magazine and all of her conferences. So, yeah, this really is a world-changing philosophy. One other thing I want to say. Any other questions or thoughts? Time. Can I say one other?
Yeah.
Okay, so this man you heard at the beginning before the Shana Kirmani, so he became a really dear friend of ours. We were having a Vaishnav Muslim dialogue in Washington for a number of years, and he was spearheading it along with Anuttama Prabhu. And once he told us, he said, you know, and actually he was there at Harvard studying hard sciences. But when he met Prabhupada, he decided to study theology as well. So he did a double major. He became an imam, as well as he spoke like 6 languages. He was amazing. But anyway, once he said to us, he's a vegetarian, you know.
Muslim vegetarian.
Muslim vegetarian. And once he said to us two things. Okay, so once he said to us privately, he said, you know, I am a Muslim, and you'd think that when I have difficulties in my life, I would think of something from Islam, but I don't. I think of Prabhupada. Isn't that beautiful? And then so in Washington, we had at the Capitol Hilton Hotel, we had this 50th anniversary of ISKCON, kind of a nice gala event, and he was one of the keynote speakers, and he came. Bengali was not one of the languages he spoke a bunch of others, but anyway, so he wrote a poem for Prabhupada to speak at this event, and it was like a haiku. It was so beautiful. Because he was standing out in the hall, in that he was like going from. He was not there for divinity, but he was cutting through the divinity school to get to his science professor, head-cracking meeting with the professor. Anyway, Prabhupada stopped him in his tracks. So he said in this poem, he said, I was standing in a liminal space, which means an in-between space, out in the hall. He said, I was standing in a liminal space, and you gave me a flower which is still blooming today. He said, which is still blooming today. Isn't that beautiful? So thank you, Srila Prabhupada.
He said that in front of 350 people.
It was a total black tie event, you know. Tulsi Gabbard came and played, you know, the ukulele. Anyway.
And chanted Hare Krishna.
And chanted Hare Krishna.
In her previous job.
In her previous. We won't go there.
Thank you both so very much. It was great to have those personal stories and also the contextualization of Prabhupada's significance, broader scale. It's just wonderful. And you know, I think Anuttama Prabhu explained why, you know, when you say, he said Prabhupada said, I got so many moons, and you were brushing it off. He was like seeing some future potential, but no, you both are moons, because what Anuttama said, you know, back in those days you had to give up your girlfriend, you had to give up everything. You both sacrificed so much, and you took such risks. Everybody here, oh yeah, the Hare Krishna movement, that's a thing. So, you know, we just go into this established thing. But for you guys, it was different. And that makes you moons. So thank you for shining your light. Would either one of you like to lead kirtan?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like a 5-minute thing?
Yes.
Mridanga?
Harmonium.
Harmonium.
While that's getting set up, I want to tell you this funny thing. I heard from Shama Sundar. He was interviewed in this Harvard Bhakti Yoga conference online, which you can get. I can give you the link if you don't know about it. Anyway, he said that once he asked Prabhupada, because Prabhupada was so jolly, and once he asked Prabhupada, what is laughter? And you'll appreciate this. Maybe you know this story. He said, what is laughter? And Prabhupada said, laughter is when what actually happens is different from what you thought would happen. And then he started laughing.
That's great.
This is the way she introduces my kirtan.
You come this way. Come this way.
Someone's got a drum? Yeah, I'll play. Someone else? Nirvisesha Shimali Bastatai, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasana. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Prabhupada Paramamsa Parivrajikacharya Astu Atarasata Shri Srimad